This video is brought to you by Letsynthesize Academy, the #1 place for practice-oriented courses for serious music producers. Hey, Dan Larsson here, welcome to the newest Synthesize Sunday episode. And you know what? I think you know that your 808 should sound something like this. Okay, this 808 plays on C sharp, which is a very low note. And why does your 808 sucks on very low notes? First of all, simply because it does not have enough overtones that could cut through the mix, because you know, a C sharp sub cannot be heard really well. And second, the correlation between the kick and the sub is not, or the 808 is not very good, because you need a very special trappy kind of kick to cut through the mix along with the 808. So let's jump into it and let me explain this in details. If you want to grab this project, make sure to check the video description. Okay, so how to make very good 808s that sounds really well on lower notes. Basically, we need a neuro-ish kind of bass sound, especially for that kind of bass sound that I just showed you. That was a really neuro-ish kind of sound. So the first and most important thing here is the distortion. So I placed several types of distortion in the process, like, I don't know, like 5 instances of distortion types, and that is very important. Second, I used a slight FM to it, like I started with a siny kind of sound. Maybe I added some overtones using the pencil tool in operator, and you know, I added some slide FM. Also, what can make your sound even more interesting is adding chorus to it. You know, I know that it sounds really weird, but yeah, I added 2 instances of choruses to this sound to make it really fat, but don't click away, I'm going to fix the problems that it may occur later. After lots of distortions and chorus and FM, I need to use lots of EQing to get rid of those frequencies that, you know, are really unwanted at the final product, but was generated using the distortions and other effects. And this is again a very important thing here. You need to use filters and envelopes to make the sound like a boom effect and not a constant sort of sound, you know, because an 808 was first and originally it was an instrument, a drum instrument, and what everybody uses for the basses is the kick itself. And the kick was built up using, well, mostly a simple sine wave, and an envelope was added to it to make it like an 808 sound, you know, has some really strong start and it fades into a siny kind of sound. So this is important to implement into your 808 process. For example, with the FMing, adding a different type of envelope to the modulator and to the filter, and lots of other things can be modulated during the process. Of course, this depends on your personal taste, but this is an important step. And another important step is to add some pitch bend to the very start, because we need to achieve that kicky, that punchy kind of sound. And the final thing, which is, I would say, another very important thing, is a utility tool to turn everything into mono. Because, you know, we use choruses and we use different sound that it may edit some stereo width. We definitely need to turn everything below 500 Hz or so to mono. This is very important if you don't want to occur like crazy phasing problems, especially on the sides. That is not very good and are not very professional at all. Okay, so these are very important steps. And finally, when you start making your 808, start on the key of your song. For example, this song or this snippet was in C sharp, so I started with C sharp and I started to process the sound on this note, so I knew that this 808 will sound really well on that exact note. Okay, so after theory, let's jump into practice. Okay, so this is the original operator sound that I used. This is a little softer kind of 808, and actually this might be really good for hip-hop, but for trap we need go a lot stronger sound. Okay, so the first step is using a sine wave and modulating it with another sine wave. And all I did here is just I set the length of the 808 and I filtered it using an LP filter on this envelope. So what I told you about the envelopes, I apply this on the filter envelope to make it this kind of shape to the sound. So we start with higher overtones beginning of the sound and go into the siny kind of tone. Okay, so I added 3 instances of overdrive. This is crazy, I know, but after it I had to make sure that I get rid of every frequencies that were unwanted for this sound. So let me just mute them. So this is the pure sound. Okay, so after this I resample the sound and put back into a sampler, which is again a very important thing, because you know, when you play with an 808, Originally it was a sample basically. I mean, the drum instrument was not a sample, but how people use it was a sample really. So how a sample behaves and works is very different than a synthesizer, especially with lots of effects after it. And because our ears got used to that sound, that behavior as a sample works in a sampler, we need to follow these steps. So of course you can use a synthesizer, but I highly suggest you to put the resample version into a sampler, because you know, this is what your ears expect when you want to hear an 808. Okay, and now this is the resampled version and of course further tweaked version. Now the first step was I added a filter, simply because I wanted to achieve that fade out into sine kind of sound. So as you can see, I used the envelope and I pull back the frequency, and again this is based on your taste. So this is a regular kind of 808, a really distorted, heavily distorted 808, but if you want to achieve a hold kind of tone to it, just get rid of the filter. Now if you unclick the filter, you may occur some problems, because I used a drive here, so I put it up to like 15 decibels. So as I told you, I use lots of distortion, and in the sampler we have a really nice drive feature, so I highly suggest you to use that. This can create some very nice rumbly and growly kind of effect to your 808. And the next thing is tweaking the global envelope. So I set it to 60 seconds, but this is obviously too long, so you can go to like 10 seconds. This is more than enough. If you want to learn more about trap production and anything trap related, just click here. Okay, as I told you, I added 2 instances of choruses, so let me show you how it sounds without the choruses. This can be great if you are after this sound. Let me check how it sounds with this. Yeah, this is great also, but honestly, I'm really into this sound with the choruses. And the broken tube, this preset for the Dynamics Tube plugin is so crazy good. So the Dynamic Tube plugin basically emulates an analog tube behavior, and this is very nice to add some growly kind of tone to the sound. Let me show you what it does with the spectrum analyzer. So first of all, let me just try to draw you. So if you have a sine wave, the broken tube will cut this part of the sound. So what you will get at the end is something like this. And this can create some very nice growly kind of tone. Here is a sine wave. This is a regular sine wave. And if you put the Dynamic Tube plugin after it and start cranking up the drive, of course you can tweak the tone and the bias to achieve different sounds, but basically you get the idea. So let's jump back to our original 808. The broken tube preset for the Dynamic Tube device created a really nice tone to it, but without proper EQing, this is just, you know, too much middle tones, too much middle basses that I had to fix using these EQs. And after that I use another saturator to add some more crunch to it, and a phaser to make it even deeper and eviler. And at the end I made sure that everything is in mono, and the limiter, basically this is all here. I think this is a really nice 808 that may fit into your trap song really well, especially on your very low note, for example C# or D or anything like that. So if you enjoyed it, drop a thumbs up and subscribe for even more weekly awesome tutorials. I was Larsen, and see you guys next time. Peace!